Let's get straight to GB News' home and security editor Mark White, who is live in Dover. Mark, I believe a significant boat is coming in. Over to you.
The migrant crisis unfolding before our very eyes here at Dover as the Border Force vessel Ranger rounds the harbour wall into the western jetfoil area of Dover Harbour, where Border Force has its migrant processing facilities. And this Border Force vessel is absolutely overloaded with migrants. It's taken two full boatloads of migrants from the English Channel, bringing them here to that processing facility where they will be checked over, disembark, of course, the vessel, and then be formally arrested, fingerprints taken, and all the usual things that happens to these migrants who cross, of course, to the UK illegally in the first instance, before they then go on to claim asylum and enter our asylum process. And then, of course, we know what happens with migrants either sent to hotels up and down the country or to local authority or shared housing accommodation around the country. But this is another significant day in the English Channel, with 200 migrants already here in the UK from earlier today, boatloads that were picked up in the Channel. And as we speak to you, another two migrant boatloads have just left France. They've come out, we believe, from a river tributary near Dunkirk, near the beach of Gravelines. Now, Gravelines is important because it is a flashpoint where French police and migrants have been clashing again overnight. Violent scenes erupting with French police officers coming under a hail of missiles, stones, sticks, Molotov cocktails thrown at them by migrants who were being disrupted as they were attempting to get across the English Channel. So that could have been another 300, Martin, who would have been on that journey across to the UK today. As it is, by the close of play today, we still may be looking at 350 who have successfully traversed the English Channel.
And Mark White, I mean, these scenes are just incredible. Once again, hats off to the cameraman down there. No other news channel is doing this. This is boatloads of illegal immigrants landing at Dover in real time. And Mark White, I put it to you, it makes an absolute mockery of the political position. Successive European Union leaders, Macron and Friedrich Merz, coming to the UK, promising to do everything they can to clamp down on this human smuggling trade. Sir Keir Starmer touting his one in, one out deal. There's none going out, Mark White. They're all coming in.
Well, they are. The numbers are just continuing to grow. And today, very significantly, we passed 23,000 migrants who crossed the English Channel illegally since the beginning of the year. Now, that number is important because we're at 23,000 and we're only just part way through July. We're only just into what is traditionally the very busy summer months in the Channel of July, August, September, even into October, all very busy months where on a good day 1,000 are crossing in flat calm conditions. So at 23,000 already, without a doubt, last year's total for the entire year of 36,000 will be passed within the next 6 weeks. And then we're going into record territory. The biggest number who ever crossed the English Channel since this crisis began was 45,000, almost 46,000. Who crossed the Channel in 2022. We are absolutely on course to smash that record by the end of this year. What's happening now, Martin, is the Border Force vessel Ranger tying up, just making sure that it's secure before those migrants will be taken off, and they'll be taken off in groups of 10 up the gangway to the left of the images that you're seeing, there's a gangway there that they go up, and then basically they head down into the area where lots of security, Border Force personnel are waiting for them as they go through the process there at that point. Now, our producer Chris, who is just supreme at being able to guess these things, reckons that there could be at least 120 migrants on this particular boat alone, this one Border Force vessel, 120 migrants. 120 migrants who will have to be housed in a hotel or multiple other accommodations right around the country, with all of the added tensions that we know that adds in communities right across this nation of ours.
Mark White, I put it to you, as well as the sheer quantity. When we look at that incredible footage you sent to us earlier, we'll try and get it again later in the show, of Molotov cocktails flying at the gendarme in France there. There's also an issue of quality control. We have no idea who is on those boats. We have no idea their criminal past. We do know that they'll be shoved through the processing plant and put into asylum hotels, perhaps in a town near you, or a multiple occupancy house in a town near you. And Mark White, this is not a government in control of its borders.
Well, certainly not looking at these images, and I think hopefully you can see the gangway there now, where the first of those migrants are being offloaded from the Border Force vessel Ranger up the gangway and down into the processing centre. As I say, for control purposes, they do it in groups of 10. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Martin. There's no way you can look at these images day after day, as we do on this channel, documenting these important days of large numbers coming across the channel, and say that we are in a position where there's anything but a lack of control in our border security here, because it seems whatever the government tries to do, they are powerless to stop these hundreds and hundreds of migrants still coming across the channel, aided and abetted by the people smugglers, who are very adept now at being able to source their small boats from these backstreet factories in China. They're then taken through Turkey into Europe, and as we heard with the visit of Chancellor Merz yesterday, they land up in Germany. They're locked up in garages, lockups in Germany, in the city of Essen, Dusseldorf and other locations in Germany, and the German government does absolutely nothing about it, because they have no law that says it is illegal to be part of a people smuggling conspiracy like this, when it's a country like the UK that's involved, not an EU nation. So they're changing their law to recognise that. But Martin, they're only going to change their law in 6 months' time. Yeah. How many more thousand will have come up this gangway like these migrants in the course of those 6 months?
Simply incredible footage in real time. That well-worn gangplank into Britain from those Border Force vessels, now very much feeling like a one-way conveyor belt, non-stop. Yet another red day, and as Mark White just said, another 2 incoming boats still to come in the channel. We can see live pictures there of what appear to be, I don't know if there's any way we can zoom in closer, Mark White, but they appear to be sort of once again ostensibly made up of military-aged men walking up that gangplank into Britain, and a country seemingly powerless to stop this endless tide. Mark White, thank you very, very much, and we'll cross back to you, of course, later in the show there. Live from Dover, unparalleled report.
Have you had a random call lately from a strange number, maybe trying to sell you something or even scam you? If so, your info could be out there. That's because of data brokers, shady companies that scrape the internet for your personal details and sell them to marketers or even scammers. These days, scammers can even use AI to mimic your friends' voices and trick you into sending money. It's not just annoying, data brokers often target vulnerable people with high interest loans or sketchy offers. But there is a solution. Incogni, the sponsor of this video. Incogni contacts data brokers on your behalf and requests your info be deleted from their databases. And because your data can keep popping up, Incogni keep sending removal requests to make sure it stays gone. They've just launched a new unlimited plan with custom removals. If you find your info on a weird website, just send them the link and their privacy team will work to get it taken down. Getting started is easy. Hit the link in the description, create your account and let Incogni handle the rest. It's risk-free for 30 days and you'll get 60% off an annual plan with the code GBNews. Take back control of your data with Incogni.
Joined in the studio by Chris Hope, our political editor. Chris, I want to get some reaction to you from you to that. The public will look at that now and think this is totally and utterly out of control. We hear tough talk, and to be fair, we heard it from the previous regime. We heard the same tough talk from Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party, and there's no end in sight.
No, the government will be concerned by that in Number 10. Earlier today, I asked Number 10 at their briefing about the crossings. We thought would be coming today anyway. We had Mark White reporting on them all day. We spotted them in the channel earlier. Number 10 tell us this: we know the challenge we have to take on. We are attacking these gangs and their business model. These criminal cartels have been operating with impunity for years. Labour says, with some justification, that the efforts to get this Rwanda plan going under the last Tory government meant that the eye was taken off the ball of tackling these gangs. So this government's idea is stop the gangs or smash the gangs.
The numbers are more than 40% up.
They are.
So their strategy isn't working.
It's not
either.
working, and they say give us time. There'll be record numbers almost certainly on that trending, as Mark White was saying, this year. Some would say that the Rwanda plan, while criticised by Labour, was anecdotally working. We were told by reporters for other newspapers it was stopping people crossing from northern France into the UK just before the general election in May last year, and pushing some migrants into Southern Ireland, of course, from Northern Ireland. So was it working? We don't know. We'll never know. For 2 days after the election, Sir Keir Starmer axed the plan.
Chris, a lot of people watching this show will ask the question, do they actually understand how big a problem this is? Or are they tied to the idea of people fleeing war, or that kind of Lineker type approach? Are these people fleeing war zones? Need compassion? Do they understand? I don't think the Conservatives did, and it sunk them. This can sink the Labour Party. Do they get it?
Looking at the polls, they must understand it. It ranks at the top with the National Health Service and the economy as one of the top 3 issues that bothers and concerns voters. It seemed to be jumping the queue. The idea that David Cameron had, taking migrants out from refugee camps in Syria and then flying them here if they should be here, and securing our border against those people who came across on the trains and on the ferries, that worked. It's a matter of fair play and joining the queue. Yes, we do as a country want to take in migrants if they should be here, but not ones who are paying thousands of pounds to people smugglers to get here. Yes, they get here, but there are occasional misspeaks, notably when a minister talked about it's mainly women and children on those boats. I think you can see from here, even from this shot on screen now on GB News, that's not, well, certainly not children, and probably not women too.
Yeah, when Darren Jones said it was mainly women and children, I don't know what images he's looking at, but he's certainly not looking at these images you can see live on your screen now there from Mark White and his team up at Dover, down there on the docks. That gangplank, one-way traffic once again on another red day, and 2 more incoming boats. There's a feeling of this being a non-stop human tide. Chris Hope, thank you. Stick with us because I want to get your comments on this next story as well, of the similar ilk, to be honest, because the ongoing Afghan data breach cover-up, as lawyers are now seeking to use human rights laws, of course, to force the British government to bring tens of thousands of Afghans to the UK after their names were leaked. 100,000 people could make their claim under the ECHR, claiming their rights were breached because they are in danger of reprisals from the Taliban. And meanwhile, it's been revealed that as few as 1 in 16 Afghans identified in the data breach had genuine claims for asylum. That means that 15 out of 16 claims were bogus. And yet the lawyer's response? Well, we need to take in another 1 100,000. My next guest thinks they've bitten off more than they can chew in this instance, and that is the social policy analyst, Dr. Rakib Hassan. You wrote an excellent article in The Telegraph today. Welcome to the show, by the way. It was a pleasure to have your company. Is this simply a step too far? 15 out of 16 claims, utterly bogus, and the lawyer's response is, well, let's forget about that. But while we're at it, you've got to take in another 100,000.
No, absolutely. And mine, I'd make the point. I think that there'd be many British people who'd be supportive of the idea of Afghans who have genuinely deep links with serving alongside the British Army during the UK's military involvement in Afghanistan to be provided sanctuary on the grounds that they pass their own security and background checks under a well-regimented system, certainly not one of a process of resettlement which is carried out in secret. But what we're talking about here is something quite remarkable. Now, this list of 100,000 Afghans, it's been reported in The Telegraph that for every one genuine claimant, 15 claims are bogus. Yet we have lawyers who are saying that they may well use ECHR provisions to ultimately fight the case for Afghans to be resettled in the UK, even if they have no connections with Britain, or connections which are spurious at best. And I think there'd be many people who'd find that deeply worrying, and they'd find that to be a grave injustice in itself.
Well, Dr. Rakib Hassan, that draws the obvious conclusion. If 15 out of 16 are bogus, and yet these lawyers think we should take them in, they seem to be utilising international treaties to force Britain to take bogus claimants.
Well, I think this is the point here. I think that our human rights architecture in the UK is simply not fit for purpose, because I believe that at the heart of our human rights framework should be the safety and security of UK citizens. And I think that another problem that we have here is that while I don't like the fact that the UK is a member state of a supranational foreign court based in Strasbourg, we have a very serious problem here within our own judiciary, where I feel that UK judges all too often, they ultimately prioritise the rights of foreign nationals, including those who have broken the law, over the collective security of UK citizens. So what I argued for in today's piece in The Telegraph is that we need to reform our human rights architecture. That includes a radical reform of the Human Rights Act, which encourages UK judges to make rulings which are compatible with the European Convention on Human Rights. And we also need to curb the judicial review process. Otherwise, you won't have meaningful national sovereignty when it comes to immigration and asylum. And all too often, you'll ultimately have unelected judges undercutting the decisions of a democratically elected UK government. But crucially, we have to make this point, Martin, is that this would need this kind of major constitutional reform. It needs significant political willpower. And there are far too many people in the UK Parliament at the moment. They prioritise their own legal background. And I think that does include the Prime Minister over prioritising the mainstream preferences of the British electorate when it comes to matters of immigration and asylum.
Dr. Rakib Hassan, final question to you. A lot of people will be listening to this and just thinking laws that were brought in post-World War II to protect legitimate asylum seekers fleeing war zones, Jewish people, they were perfectly fit for purpose then. If we're in a position today where the very same laws are being used to trammel 100,000, if 15 out of 16 of them are bogus, then these laws, they're not working in favour of Britain anymore. They're working against our national interest.
No, absolutely. There's far too many people gaming our asylum system. And we're talking about conventions, international conventions, which came into force back in the 1950s. They haven't been modernised and they haven't kept pace with the growing ease of international human movement and transformative technological change. So it's either that these conventions are modernised or the UK has to reevaluate its relationship with them. In my view, many people will argue for the UK's withdrawal from them. But I think crucially, we need to get to grips with our human rights framework so the collective security of UK citizens is put first.
OK, Dr. Rakib Hassan, social policy analyst, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Hope to see you again soon. Chris, Hope, quickly back to you. Do you want to have a bit of reaction to that bit there?
Well, just to say that the government does challenge this figure of 100,000 people can come here using ECHR, the Human Rights Act. They say it's a hypothetical claim. They say we will robustly defend our position on legal action and compensation. The Paul Rimmer report this week found it's highly unlikely that just being a name on that spreadsheet is enough to mean you're targeted. So they would challenge that contention that being on that spreadsheet means you've got a right to come here.
Chris, can I quickly ask you, you've worked in political journalism a long time. You've seen disasters come and go. You worked on the Expenses scandal. You drove that story. How bad a scandal do you think this is comparatively? I think it's utterly terrible.
I think we come to terms with how bad it is. I do think at the heart of it, though, is a choice that was made by Conservatives. Do they risk lives, frankly, or bring in the super injunction and do it all in secret for 2 years? Because if they hadn't acted, there would be blood on the hands of these ministers. That's a point made by Grant Shapps today. Of course, he set up the ARR route out of Afghanistan. I think so. It's different because I think it's quite an invidious situation. The cock-up, I'm afraid, was from this member of the government sending the wrong information in the first place to Afghanistan.